Hello, magical people of the internet. I am Jen, and welcome to I Never Thought I Would, where we share stories about doing things we never thought we would do and the fabulous places that they can lead us to. I have such a fantastic guest today. He is someone that I know from many moons ago, and this is our first time reconnecting in a couple of decades. So, this is super exciting for me. He is an author, he is a certified Alexander Technique teacher, and he is one of the voice coaches at the illustrious Neighborhood Playhouse Theater School in New York City. I have Gary Ramsey with me. Hi, Gary.
Hello, Jen. Thank you so much. That was a lovely introduction. I am so happy to be here.
I am so happy to be chatting with you. You were actually the first person I ever took a vocal class with ever at the
Oh my gosh.
very beginning of my journey towards a performance career. So you've had this huge impact on my life because a lot of times the first person who introduces us to anybody kind of sticks with us. So
You are so true, right about that. It's so
yeah,
true.
so it's really special that you came on to chat with me today, and I'm so grateful. So thank you for joining me.
Oh, you are so welcome and thank you for having me.
So you have had quite the journey over the past several years, but
Yes.
you've also been a teacher in New York. You are in the arts, you are very creative. So I'm sure you've done, like one or two things. You never say the two, like just one or two.
One or two.
So, will you please share one of your stories with us today? Let us know what it is and where it led you.
Okay, well, I guess I should start with the biggest story, which is I truly never thought I would ever contract a deadly disease. Ever. I always saw myself as very fit, very healthy. Didn't have my family history is as clean as can be. They all live a long time. They never die. you know, they never get sick. They don't have heart problems. They don't have any of that. And uh, and then in the August of 2015, I was told that I could die at any minute. And not only could I die at any minute from a deadly tumor, there was nothing that could be done about it. And that began a journey that I will actually say to this day is still hard for me to believe. And I lived it. I lived it, and it's very, very hard to when I go back and think about it that oh my God, I did that. And if I hadn't been witness to the whole thing, I would have thought it was impossible.
Mhm.
And again, even the diagnosis, a doctor saying literally the first words out of my, and he was a specialist, the first words out of his mouth were, "You can die at any minute." And I went, "What?" Because I thought I, it didn't register. Do you know what I mean? I have never heard that. I've heard people who could die in 2 weeks, 2 months, you know, uh, serious problem, had to go to the hospital right away. But for someone to say to you, someone, a specialist, to say you could die at any minute, I didn't understand it. And for those in the audience that may not understand it, I had a deadly tumor from cancer, which that was a surprise. But it was one of those tumors. There are five of them, by the way, in cancer. There's five deadly tumors. Um, Mine was a branching tumor that had grown through the kidney, up through the renal vein, and toward the heart, which is considered uh, almost impossible to remove safely. The person doesn't die of the cancer; they die of either an embolism or an aneurysm. They don't make it through the surgery. I was told the chances of me making it through the surgery were next to impossible.
Okay, so now I'd like to ask, like, were you in pain? Were you in discomfort? Like, what prompted you to seek out some sort of medical attention that led to finding this tumor?
what finally led to it was an odd loss of weight.
Ah,
That's what actually led to the doctor.
okay.
I had had some discomfort earlier before the loss of weight that was diagnosed as a kidney stone.
Oh,
So that's how that all happened, which was with another doctor.
but it wasn't a kidney
And
stone.
it probably was this cancer 9 times out of 10. But at the time, that doctor who had run the tests and did the blood and all of the stuff they do found absolutely nothing abnormal.
Yeah.
Said you must have passed a kidney stone because that's what it felt like. There was some blood in the urine, which is common with passing kidney stones. And I was put on an antibiotic. And everything went back to normal, except my stomach was kind of off. Not bad, just kind of off. Sometimes something didn't agree. Sometimes, and my stomach had never really been like that. And I just thought it was from the antibiotic that I'd gotten for the quote unquote kidney stone. And then I finally went to another person because I couldn't figure out the stomach, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't like I couldn't eat. It wasn't like I was sick after I ate. I just would feel weird. And then, and not all the time. Sometimes I'd feel totally fine. And then finally, a health professional said, "Why don't you cut out sugar?" Which I did. And I cut out all processed sugar, all processed food, all of the that stuff. And that's when I found out there's processed sugar in everything, except for
Okay.
vegetables and yeah, I mean it's just everything, even cheese. It's like oh my god. And then I started losing weight, which you would expect, and then it kind of the weight all of a sudden felt like I was losing it more quickly. But then I was confused and I was like, didn't I just weigh 2 more pounds yesterday? And then it was like, no, I must have not really, because I wasn't like writing it down or anything like that. And then all of a sudden I realized there was a severe drop in weight loss. And I had been told by the first doctor if there's any other issue, you should go to a specialist, which I did. And then I pretty much knew by the time the test results came back that something was very wrong. I had dropped an extreme amount by that point because I don't know how in America you have to go to this doctor, then that doctor, then these tests, and then those tests, and then they all come back to the original doctor. And by the time that happened, I knew something was very wrong. But I did not think I was going to die. That was a surprise. That was a total surprise. And when I said to him, when he explained, how this was happening, I said, "You mean there's nothing that can be done?" He said, "No." He said, "As a matter of fact, anything they attempt to do will probably kill you faster."
Oh, shoot.
Shoot.
I was
And
gonna say something else, but
so I left there, and again, the miracle began almost immediately. I asked for my test results. Don't ask me why, because basically he said, even if we got you to the hospital now and operated in 2 hours, you're not going to survive it. So I thought, I just wanted those test results. I had no idea. I had never heard of anything like this. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I finally walked out of his office, and I have to tell you, I felt the greatest sense of ease and peace that I've ever felt in my life. Ever. On one of the deadliest days, I felt this sense of what I call bliss. There was no problem. I didn't care about dying. I didn't care about what was going on. I just felt blissful. And I will also tell you, possibly one of the most beautiful days that August in 2015, 6 years ago. And I walked to a park. There was a park very near the office. And there were all these people and children and nannies and mothers and old men and young fathers and everybody doing their thing. And all of a sudden, it sounds really silly, but I saw everybody and I went, anybody could die at any minute. Everyone in this park could be dead by tonight, just like me. And the only difference between them and me is I have proof and they know nothing. And that's when I just blissed out. It was like, whoa, it was like the most monumental understanding that I had ever heard or and even though it was very simple, it hit me in a very profound way. And all I remember is I sat on a bench. I don't know how long I was there, and I was just in this state of peace. I no longer cared about cancer, dying, my life, where I was. It was almost like the angels could have just come down and taken me and I would have been like, "Oh, okay. Let's go." And it was really one of the most beautiful states and the beginning of my journey through cancer.
It sounds like you just had this complete surrender.
Total.
No, you're using the word bliss, and I understand what you mean by bliss, but it's like when you just finally surrender everything, maybe that allows for all the minutia to fall by the
To
wayside.
fall by the wayside. And I will always say that moment was my godsend.
Yeah.
That was my godsend. Because, I mean, I couldn't have gotten a worse diagnosis. I mean, you just couldn't get a worse one. I mean, I've never heard of anybody who had a worse one.
Yeah,
And
I don't think so. Like,
and
I've heard of the you have a few weeks, you have a
yeah, you have a
I've
month.
never heard of the oh, you could be dead by tonight. Like you
Yeah,
could die
right.
right now as we're speaking.
Mhm.
Like, okay. So what how did you formulate your plan of action? Like I understand there was a lot of surrender and a lot of just
Yes,
kind of letting go, but you did end up going for some sort of treatment somewhere.
correct.
So can you tell us a little bit about that?
I will absolutely, and it still goes off that experience of bliss. I no longer chose anything; everything chose me.
Okay, I love that.
And it began with, I remember when I came out of this, and I don't know how long I was there, uh, I didn't know what to do.
Mhm.
And then I remember the doctor said, you have to tell somebody because no one except me, you, and the people who've done these tests know that you are going to die. And I thought, oh my God, I have to tell somebody. So I thought, oh, I'll call my sister.
Mhm.
And then as I was dialing the phone, and this is where I knew things were really kind of in a whole new dimensional reality.
Mhm.
I'm calling her and I'm going, oh my God, she's going to think the worst. And then I thought, this is the worst. So when I get on the phone with her, I'm actually starting to laugh. And she goes, oh, so everything is fine? And I said, well, no, not exactly. She said, well, what are you in such a good mood about? I said, it's kind of complicated. it's it's complicated. And she said, what are you talking about? You sound like you're like something's really wrong. And I said, well, yeah, there is something really wrong. And then, first of all, I realized how hard it was to tell people and make them understand
Mhm.
because nobody, they said, what do you mean you can die at any minute? Nobody understood the concept. So that was my first problem. And then my second problem was I was in this good, calm, peaceful place, which kind of scrambled their brain. They didn't understand how can that be real and you sound so good.
How are you not hysterical?
How am I not hysterical? How am I not crying? How am I not sobbing? And to be honest, I had no answer. All I could say is like, well, I had this thing where I felt like I was blissed out. I didn't, it happened right after the doctor, and I tried to explain it the way I've explained it better to you than I probably did to her at that time. And then after our conversation, I was also an opera singer at that point. I had a huge opera coming up in Texas. I had to cancel that. That was my next thought came to me, and I was like, "Oh my God, you should cancel that because they've got to replace me." I was the lead.
Yeah.
So I called them. They were in shock. Then I get finally, I'm walking, walking, walking. I get home, and then I have another thought come to me about Farrah Fawcett. And it was like, out of like, who thinks about Farrah Fawcett? Except what I thought about is when she died of cancer, they flew her to Germany. And I remembered I was puzzled by that at the time. And I said to a friend who knew about cancer, I said, why would you fly a dying woman to Germany? And they said, oh, Germany has the top cancer cures in the world.
Okay.
And that thought came to me, and I went up into my apartment and I got on the computer and I started researching Germany. And so I was diligent, and I thought maybe they've got something. Who knows? Because it's another country, a different perspective. Let me go and check Germany. Then there's a pop up that comes up on my computer with this beautiful place that looks like, kind of looks like an Indian palace, but it's in Mexico. And I look at it and I go, oh my God, that's so gorgeous. If I'm going to die, I want to die there. And sure enough, I pop on it and it's a hospital. And I think, that's a hospital? Because it really looked like a 4-star facility.
Yeah.
It actually is a spa, but it's also serves as a medical hospital. And then I thought, oh my God, that's so weird. And then I'm looking, and they deal with cancers. And then they say that they deal with difficult cancers. And I'm like, well, I've got a difficult cancer. I'm going to die. So I'm going to call them. So, and I mean, I'm telling you this blow by blow, exactly how it happened. And this maybe wasn't even like 2 hours after the diagnosis. And I get on the phone. There's a representative. They have a representative here in the States for the facility in Mexico. And I start saying about this tumor, and I give her all the information, all the names, everything they told me. And she said, oh, yes, we're very familiar with those tumors. I said, you are? I said, they're telling me these are rare. She said, oh, yeah, they're very rare. She said, but they do happen, and we are familiar with them. And I said, why? Because they're saying here that I'm going to die, that there's really nothing to be done. She said, well, that's why. Because a lot of people come, and we have a different way of dealing with these tumors. And we do a different method prior to surgery, which perhaps will help the tumor to stabilize and not break apart during your surgery. Because remember, the breaking apart, when they take a tumor out, parts of it can come off, which is really, we call metastasizing when it breaks apart. But with me, it would have just stopped my heart.
Mm-hmm. Because of where it was, because of the
Because
location.
of where it was and the difficulty of the position. She said, and we have had success. Now, she said, yours is very serious. I'm not going to lie. But it's a better option than what you'll be given in the States. I said, yeah, they told me I'm just going to die. And she said, yeah, and you may die in Mexico, but we could try this. So I'm just going to be frank with you. It's a little bit better of an option.
Yeah.
I said, well, what have I got to lose? I'm already going to die. So it's like, let's give it a shot. So then literally she says to me on the phone, she says, now, things would move a lot faster if you have your medical records, or could you get them quickly? And I said, you know what? I have them. I asked my doctor. She said, oh my God. She said, that was so astute of you. And I said, even at the time, I didn't even know why I was asking. And in Mexico, of course, they wouldn't have been able to send them to Mexico. So I had all the records. I could scan them into my computer and get them to her. And she said, well, this is going to save a lot of time. And I said, well, good, because I could die at any minute. So we don't have a lot of time. And she laughed so hard, and I laughed so hard. And at that moment, I thought, whatever this adventure is going to bring, I'm going to go out with a bang. This is going to be the best time of my life. And do you know, that's exactly what it was. It was the best time of my life.
So how many days later were you in Mexico from that phone
Well, I
call?
was diagnosed on a Tuesday, in the probably around 3:30ish,
Mhm.
and I was in Mexico in time for lunch on the following Sunday. So
Wow.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 4 days. And I completely wrapped up my life, closed everything up, got all my financial affairs. Everything was put over to my sister.
Mhm.
And I was on a plane early, early Sunday morning our time.
And you didn't die on the way.
And I didn't die on the way.
That's
Like,
such an incredible story. So, and I'm going to jump the gun, but
okay, go ahead.
this is your book. Your book is called Bliss, Bliss One Hero's Journey. So, and is this whole story is the rest of this story in the book? Because I don't want us to give away the whole thing.
Yes. The whole story, and it I go through exactly my process, both my thinking, my emotionality,
Mhm.
how I did what I did, why I believe things went as well as they did, why what the doctors did, so that people have more of an understanding that even when faced with deadly circumstances, it does not mean death is in the cards.
Yes.
And now I help a lot of cancer people who, are facing horrific circumstances. But once again, you never know what will happen.
Okay. Well, this is like the perfect cliffhanger to leave the audience with in terms of this story, because like I need to grab your book. I need to know what happens in Mexico. I need to know what happens next. But I do want to bring up something because I, like I said, you were my first vocal teacher at the
Mhm.
beginning of my performance career journey, when I was, fledgling, just starting to study. And you were doing some Alexander technique exercises with us in class.
Mhm.
And I remember you specifically saying that people have even cured cancer with Alexander technique. And for people out there who don't know about Alexander technique, MF Alexander, it was an Australian performer who realized that he kept losing his voice and he thought it was a medical issue, and he realized it wasn't a medical issue. It had to do with how he was using his voice and using his body, and he came up with this theory that a lot of ailments and a lot of chronic pain and a lot of things that we go through in life aren't necessarily from an illness, they're from misusing our body in certain ways.
Absolutely correct.
So, okay, so you were the first person who ever introduced me to this concept. And I think
Mhm.
it's so amazing that you were able to cure yourself. I know not on your own, but I'm curious to hear if and how you used some of the Alexander technique that you are certified in, that you teach, to
Mhm.
help heal yourself while you were going through this crazy, life threatening, you shouldn't be here situation.
Yep. And absolutely, I mean, it was what I utilized throughout all of the treatments, all of the procedures, all of the surgery, everything. Because really, it's the mind body connection
Mhm.
that is really running the show. And we don't actually even know where the mind comes from. We don't really know how the whole thing works. But the mind and brain body system come together and create your reality.
Yeah.
Because remember, without a body, mind, brain, we're a ghost.
Yeah.
And I almost was. So the trick really is that the person, the more that they have a better relationship in that triune, the better they are able to utilize their energy. And even though my tumor was deadly, supposedly inoperable, supposedly was going to kill me at any minute, it didn't. And even the doctors in Mexico said, you had so much to do with this. They said, we were getting worried that this was never going to work, and you did it. Although they never told me anything bad because they knew I was on such a high, which my bliss state, by the way, held through the whole journey. Which, by the way, I was back at work 6 weeks to the day when I landed in Mexico.
No.
Yeah,
Oh my
working.
God.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have to get this book. This is an amazing journey. And that's the other thing too. I think it's so, I think you had angels flying around you.
Oh,
That Mexico
absolutely.
pop-up, that Mexico pop-up, I don't know if the German doctors would have incorporated the holistic and spiritual, mind body connection in your healing. Like you said this resort looked like an Indian palace,
That
and
really did. Yep.
India is like the mecca of like spirituality. That's where people go to to have their meditation journeys and things like that.
Right.
It's all of that kind of philosophies kind of is rooted from India. So it was like, it looked like it was in India. It was this beautiful resort in Mexico. And you're just like, wow, like if it's going to happen, I'd rather it happen there.
Right. And if I was going to die, I'd rather die there, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Oh my God. Because it didn't seem like this place was like a clinical looking traditional hospital.
Correct. No
It,
doom and gloom.
yeah, it
No
was
doom
like a
and gloom.
sterile environment.
No. And you know how some hospitals can be. It's like, ooh, it's
Oh,
depressing just to walk
yes,
in.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is fantastic. Okay. So where can everybody find you? Where can everybody find the book? Let us know.
Okay. So Amazon is my publisher. Okay. So you just Gary Ramsey Bliss, it comes up. Um, Also, Facebook and Instagram. And my name, Gary Ramsey, author Gary Ramsey. I have a regular page. I have a lot of people now that follow and reach out. My story went viral because I met a woman, Anita Morjani. Are you familiar with her?
I'm not. Who is she?
Hay House publisher, and she was a woman who was dying of end stage cancer in a Hong Kong hospital. She had written a book 3 years prior to my cancer, and I was a huge fan. She was also one of the people that was very, had really primed me for miracles
Okay.
because she should have been dead a long time ago, and she's still around helping people throughout the world.
Amazing.
She's really the person that stirred me out of my bliss state, and that's what got me to call my sister. It was thinking about her and the fact that she was on her deathbed, riddled with end stage cancer. Like, that's it. Her organs were failing.
Oh my God.
And she came back, and her cancer disappeared in a hospital within 8 days, all based on a near death experience, and miraculously it just disappeared.
Wow. And you were
Mine wasn't
familiar,
as miraculous. What?
but you were familiar with her book and her writing prior to
Correct.
the
I
diagnosis. So
I
she's
had
like
given
this
it to a lot
inspiration.
of people. Yes, yes. And then she again, another fluke. I mean, that's how my life kind of worked after the cancer. Um, she was doing a special workshop very close to New York. I was free that weekend. I decided to go.
Mhm.
Somebody there knew me and knew my story. Then it came up in a workshop about, somebody dying at any minute. I answered, and she loved my story. And then I did an interview on a radio show with her, which really is what led to me writing the book.
Oh, cool.
That's why I wrote the book.
Amazing.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
everybody has to go write the book, read the book. We will have all the links below. We will have links to the book, links to follow Gary on all the social media. I want to thank you so much for sharing your
You are
story.
so welcome. This has been so wonderful, and I just love spreading the word.
I know, what an inspiration. And that's the thing, miracles are real.
They are. I'm a living proof.
You're
Living
living
proof.
proof, and we
Yep.
never know. We can never take any moment for granted because, like you said, the only difference between you and those people in the park was that you knew your time could be up at any minute, but all of our time could be up at any minute. Nobody
And
has that.
nobody knows. Yep.
Yes.
You are so right. And the only thing that blocks our greatness, our miraculous abilities, is fear.
Yeah.
Fear will stop it all.
And you weren't afraid. You weren't afraid during this entire
No, I was
process.
blessed and I went into a bliss state.
Amazing. I am so inspired by your story. I hope all of you out there in the interweb are inspired too. And I hope this inspires you to do something you never thought you would do. Let us know what it is in the comments and where it leads you. And I hope you all have a magical day.
Bye bye.